The colors are unmistakable. They are unmissable. It is Air Force One, and I am going to take you aboard today. That and a few other planes. Some of them very, very big, some not so big, and some very, very small. Stick around for the next few minutes. National Museum, United States Air Force. That is what the building in front of me says. And it is a rather huge campus warranting a map so you can find your bearings and you don't get lost. At the entrance there is the appropriate signage. It is simple but elegant, as you would expect of the Air Force. To the right is a gift shop with the appropriate items that fits the Air Force. There is a museum theater where they stream movies and film related to aviation. On the left is a Kawasaki robot that is set up to provide you with coffee for a small amount of money. Clearly, robots don't work for free, like humans. And now that we have our coffee and condiments, let's get to the business of the day. As promised, we start the day at the Presidential Pavilion. This particular plane and all the other planes that you see around that have a presidential insignia and the seal of the President of the United States are obviously not the current Air Force One. A great majority of them have not flown since the 70s or the 80s. I do not have an exact date or the last time they flew. But as you can see, the general appearance and the presidential seal and the appropriate colors are still intact. This spot right here is where the president stands, turns around and waves back at us on the tarmac. This was pure luxury in the 70s and the 80s, but even now, flying in this setup would still be better than flying first class in any airline anywhere. So they did take care of the president even way back then, even without the electronic wizardry that you find in Air Force One today. Few items from different administrations, stationery from the Truman administration, cigarettes from the Johnson administration, a box from J.F. Kennedy. You have plates, cups, wine glasses from both Obama and Trump, stationery and Kleenex from both Clinton and Bush. You have a booklet that they give to you when you board Air Force One, menu and the do's and don'ts of Air Force One. You have candy from the Obama administration, the Bush-Gorbachev press release, probably related to the end of the Cold War. You have other items that came from retired Air Force Ones, including a seatbelt from the Reagan administration. You have seen the plane, but let's take a minute and talk about the power. not from a political standpoint, just purely academic at best. What you're looking at are what they used to call intercontinental ballistic missiles that were a hallmark of the Cold War. They consist of a warhead on top and the rocket that powered the warhead towards whatever target that was set. To say that these things are huge is an understatement. They tower all up into the sky. And not only that, they were housed in underground bunkers or silos all the way below the Earth's surface in different remote areas. The same technology that powered or powers intercontinental ballistic missiles is currently in a more refined form used to power rockets that deliver payloads to the space station, and it is used to deliver satellites in space. It is indeed rocket science. It is rocket science that enabled man to walk in space. And man has been walking in space for a great many decades. To that end, it is only fair that we take a look at this space shuttle replica that we have here. The space shuttle program ran until 2011. That's when it was retired in favor of more modern private means of getting to the space station. As you can see, they had spots for floppy disks for information management, which tells you that it began a long time ago because we don't use floppy disks. We don't even use compact disks anymore. It had two pilots, as you can see, dressed in pressurized suits to ensure that they were safe in space. This has got to be one of the most honorable jobs for any pilot. And just looking at the equipment here, they almost look authentic. I cannot quite tell if this is a made-up replica for the museum or if this is legitimate NASA equipment, but for all intents and purposes, it looks legit. Moving on swiftly to what appears to be the modern versions of American warcraft. Jet fighters, the flesh and bones of the Air Force. Now, it's important to mention that I am not an expert in anything related to aviation, planes, and least of all the Air Force. So my role is at best a spectator and at worst as an observer from a distance with little, if any, opinions. And certainly no professional opinions, just observations. The Stargazer was a high-altitude balloon that was used for observation. If you have ever seen the space shuttle land, you have seen it deploy these same parachutes in order to slow down. And these are components of rocket systems that are used to not only ignite fuel but also fire it and help propel the system out of the Earth's atmosphere. This is in fact a replica of a satellite that is orbiting as we speak, and behind it you have the rocket system that would have been used to carry it into orbit. That back there is what contains the fuel that powers the whole system out of the Earth's atmosphere. Currently in operation, you have F5s to F35s. All of them operational. The F-35s are your fifth generation modern jet fighters. F-5s and such lower designation numbers are old fighters, but still very much in operation across the globe, not just in the United States. The sixth generation of fighter jets is not operational, and it's unlikely to be operational for another 5, maybe 10 years. Purely speculative, of course, but certainly looking forward to reading what it is that makes them the sixth generation. What do they have over the F-35, for example? It's hard to think of a fighter jet that's going to be more dominant, more specialized, more full of electronic wizardry than what we have now. But that is a limit that only those without knowledge to what is coming can perhaps speculate. So, looking forward to seeing what is in store. A reference here to the atomic bomb and the chemical process that is responsible for the power associated with atomic bombs, as well as a reference to the only time that this bomb was used in war. Worth mentioning is the destructive force that comes with an atomic bomb through the process of splitting or smashing atoms. We are slowly, bit by bit, moving towards the fighters that were used in various historical conflicts, starting with the Gulf War, going through the Vietnam War to the two World Wars, and going all the way back to the Wright Brothers. When, for example, the transition happened from the Wright brothers' pursuit of a hobbyist idea of flying implements in the air to planes being equipments and implements that can be used to deliver death in the most efficient and devastating way. So as I walk through the various exhibits, we are moving backwards in history towards the very beginning of the aircraft. This was a bomber crew during the Vietnam War. As you can see, while they were operating at some seriously high altitude, they would require extra supplemental oxygen. But most importantly, you can see the bombs right there. They would have had to pick them up and use very, very crude guiding systems. Not crude at that time, obviously, but crude in comparison to what they have now. But this is from the Vietnam War. Currently, I am guessing that we don't have manned bomb delivery systems. They are all automated, and you don't need a crew that requires supplemental oxygen. Every generation of the Air Force, and indeed the wider American military, has faced conflict in one way or another, starting right now and going all the way back. And for historical purposes, we will stop at the beginning of the First World War. If you look keenly, you're going to notice that every generation has been involved in conflict in one way or another, some minor, some major. Pretty much all of these conflicts have happened outside the boundaries of the United States. No war has been fought on these lands since the end of the Civil War. So it is safe to use that as a lens to perhaps gauge the interest and the various times historically where there has been opposition to war, and to understand for what purpose and to what intent perhaps these fine fighting men and women were involved in war. So we have gone full circle from the Wright Brothers flying machines to ultra-modern unmanned aircraft. We cannot end the day without taking a look at the big boys of the Air Force, the big giant planes that carry equipment and soldiers from point A to point B. It is safe to say that these are retired. They've done their part, they've fought the good fight, and now they will spend their days quietly in this open field, entertaining the likes of me on lazy Sunday afternoons. They were used as a transport means for troops and equipment, but as you can see, some of them have serious modifications that can only be attributed to perhaps advanced electronic equipment. So for purposes of surveillance or such other related pursuits. I am not sure exactly what the terminology would be, but that is adequate for today, for now. I end the day with a walk through the memorial park that is in front of the museum. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you again soon.